I'm Kevin Webb, and today I'm speaking with Bill Leikam, aka the Fox Guy. Bill is an ethologist who studies gray fox behavior. Native to North America, the gray fox is mysterious, it can climb trees, and scientifically speaking, it's super cute. For the past 10 years, every day Bill comes to a patch of wildland in East Palo Alto that's sandwiched between an airport, a water plant, and Highway 101. Every day, Bill plants camera traps, he takes pictures, and he takes extensive handwritten notes. And he's witnessed some very interesting things. He saw the population grow from a couple individuals when he started to over 25. And then tragically, he saw that same population crash to 0 individuals. Bill's begun advocating for a comprehensive Bay Area wildlife corridor, which hopefully would prevent some of the genetic bottlenecking that he thinks contributed to this crash. Prior to this recording, Bill took me through his typical daily routine, and we were lucky enough to see some foxes. Thank you so much for being here with me, Bill. It was awesome that we just got to go through your normal routine of checking camera traps and seeing, we actually got to see some foxes. What's a typical day in the life of a citizen scientist watching foxes?
As an ethologist, that's technically what I'm called. As an ethologist, it's a pretty rigorous routine in terms of keeping up with visually documenting what the gray fox is doing. And so it requires me to come out here to the Baylands twice a day, once in the morning to collect the SD cards from the trail cameras, and then take them home, tag them on my computer, and put them away in the archives. Then in the afternoon, come on back and set up the cameras for the night run. And that pretty much is my daily routine. There are sometimes times when I can't make it out here. I might be called away to give a speech somewhere.
Sure.
And there's nobody to cover. That's why I now have taken on a field assistant so that he will learn the routine, and when I can't make it, he can keep the cameras running.
Yeah, there was a lot. I was expecting there to be a lot of work involved. There was a lot more to it than I was even expecting. Can you talk a little bit about the gray fox in general and why it's such an interesting animal?
Well, first of all, it's a keystone predator, and as such, it is the animal, the predator that is keeping the relative balance of the ecosystem going. Because if the predator is not present, and this holds true for all predators, okay? If the predator isn't present, then it gets out of balance. The ecology gets out of balance, and you have things like trophic cascades occurring, which we have had out here. And so generally speaking, that's probably the most important part or role for a gray fox in any environment.
Yeah.
Out here, we have seen it play out its role, and when the big die-out happened, we saw the effects of not having a predator in the environment.
Yeah. Can you talk about what the die-out was?
Okay, yeah. The die-out occurred at the end of 2016, and what occurred was that the gray foxes had canine distemper. And canine distemper is a virus that attacks the neurological system, the respiratory system, and the gastrointestinal system, which means that you get all three of those infected with a virus, and you're gone. And One of the things that I did discover, though, was that after we knew that it was canine distemper, and that the ocular discharge was one of the signs of it being present, I went back into my archives all the way back to 2011, and I started looking for eye drainage or any key word that would give it to me, and I found it. I found Mama Bold, who lived in the near the water treatment plant with her mate Gray, and when she was just a year old, she showed those signs of that virus being present in her. So one of the things that it tells you is that although they have canine distemper, their immune system is powerful enough to be able to hold it off for a period of 5 years. And by 5 years, she's getting to be an old timer anyway.
Right.
And so the robustness, if you will, of their immune system is quite remarkable.
Yeah. I also found it pretty remarkable, just the amount of data that you've collected over the years. How long did you say your logbook was?
The logbook now is 1,453 pages and something over 500,000 words.
Wow.
I've never put that to memory as to what, but I happened to look at the page the other day, and I thought, wow, God, we're getting up there. We're getting up there, huh?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was it that got you interested in gray foxes in the first place?
Well, I had a brief encounter with them when I was 13, 14 years old, but the reignition of that curiosity occurred one morning when I was out here at the Baylands birding. I was looking for Bullock's Orioles.
Okay.
And the result was that I came around the corner of the old road, and ahead of me, sitting at the side of the road just beyond the gate, was a gray fox. And I was stunned. And so I started to approach that fox. And I took picture after picture, getting closer. And finally I got to the gate, and that old fox hadn't moved a muscle. It didn't seem like, anyway. And so I thought, hey, that fox must have rabies or something. You know, something's wrong with that fox. And I took a look. I knew some superficial signs for rabies. I didn't see anything that would indicate that. And so I went around the corner of the gate, and just as I got around the corner, about ready to take my next shot of her or him, I'm not sure which one it was. Anyway, it just stood up and casually walked back into the brush. You know, and my curiosity was turned on. I got hijacked by those by those little gray foxes. I quit birding, and I went into day after day after day, being where the gray foxes were, logging in on a notepad what I was seeing, and that has grown now to become the nonprofit, the Urban Wildlife Research Project. And it's beyond, right now it's beyond what I could even begin to imagine when it was back there in 2009-10.
Yeah.
When it all began. And yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the scope of the nonprofit?
The scope of it?
Yeah. Like what have you done in the past, and what are you hoping to do moving forward?
Oh, okay. Well, what we've done in the past is basically pulled together enough money out of my pocket, usually, to buy trail cameras and all the accessories that are needed for that. And as we began to accumulate robust archives and people began to hear about what we were doing, the very first big time connection came from the BBC. They were looking for somebody who knew something about gray foxes, because they wanted to do a nature series or a nature documentary on the gray fox. So the producer that got a hold of me, she and I talked back and forth by email between here and Bristol. Yeah. And finally, she pulled it all together, put together a proposal, proposed to the executive team of the BBC Nature series what she had together, and they rejected it. Not outright, though. What they did was the reason that they shelved the project was that they had just before that had I don't know if it was a series or one documentary, but it was a failure.
Okay.
And they didn't want to take a chance on another canine being a failure.
Okay.
And that's the way they looked at it. So that never came off the shelf. A subsidiary of the Discovery Channel several years ago got in touch with us, and they wanted to come out. They had a team on the East Coast, a photo team, and they were going to send it to the West Coast and get the shoot done by the time by their deadline. And what they didn't anticipate was that the team that was on the East Coast couldn't get out here in enough time for them to meet the deadline, so they had to cancel that. And so that was all before we had a nonprofit.
Okay.
Going forward, because of the die-out, we're going to do what I've come to call the collaring project. And in essence, what we're going to be able to accomplish with that is to accomplish an environment for wildlife that will upgrade the health of the animals and the whole environment. We're going to connect corridors, make linkages, and so forth, so that inbreeding will not take place. It's inbreeding that causes the presence of the disease, like that canine distemper. And so we want to wipe out any possibility that the disease can come in and decimate a population of gray foxes, raccoons, possibly, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
They're all living beings,
Yeah.
And so,
one thing that struck me, so when you were telling me where to meet you, we met in front of a hazardous waste station and water plant, and this particular park is right next to Highway 101, which is one of the busiest highways in all of California. And I used to live around here. I know you still do. I had no idea that these wetlands where these foxes lived or used to live, and hopefully will come back to, were even here. What is it about this place that makes it special? Would you say? Yeah.
Well, special for animals or special for people?
Let's say for animals.
Okay. I'm not sure that special is the way to put it.
Yeah.
We do have animals. They are searching for places to live. Okay, and as we humans develop, we destroy, and so they get put pushed into narrower, smaller regions. And for here, this area here is the only area that they can use to get from this part of Palo Alto down to Moffett Field, especially when the young are dispersing. And I mean both foxes and raccoons and possums, they all disperse and they all have to have a place to go. And I'm afraid that there's nowhere to go for a lot of the wildlife that's around.
Yeah. And you're working with some of the more interesting, most interesting companies in the area to try to maybe link up some of these areas. Is that something that you feel a little bit optimistic about?
Yeah. I'm really optimistic about where we're headed, and working with places like Facebook, with the Intuit Corporation, which is south of here. Facebook is north of here, and soon to be Google, where I'm going to be advising them on corridors, where the corridors are, where the wildlife is, and how it travels across our campus. It's been good working with Facebook. When they first contacted me, they wanted to know how to get rid of their foxes. They had been invaded by these gray foxes that were sleeping on people's cars.
Oh, terrible.
and trotting across the campus in midday, and when people were out and about and so forth. So some of those employees, they'd never seen a wild animal before.
Yeah.
And here was a wild animal trucking across their patio, and they were afraid of it. And so they called me, and I said, let me come over and I'll give you my best on what to do. And when all was said and done, I said to them, look, you got to make these gray foxes an asset.
Yeah. And
the moment they heard an asset, they said, what? I said, yeah, do a Facebook on page or place on them, and have it the Facebook Foxes. They've got that up now. And at the time, Mark Zuckerberg was really fascinated by the foxes. He came out of a kind of a little shell that he was in, and he started taking pictures of
Awesome.
The foxes. And they've got pictures of Mark taking pictures of the foxes. And so it turned the whole thing around, and now I'm advising them off and on what to do, and I'll be giving a full 1 hour talk over there on the 24th.
Cool.
So,
well, maybe as we wrap it up, we were lucky enough to actually see a couple foxes when we did the routine. Can you talk about those two foxes in particular, and maybe what they mean for the area?
Those two foxes, they were the first pair of gray foxes to repopulate the Palo Alto Baylands region. Okay, after 2 years and 1 month of waiting, of daily working my trail cameras, of daily trying to spot a couple of gray foxes that were going to hang out and stay and make it their home range. And when I caught these two on my trail camera, it was the late afternoon, January 24th, that they came out into the clearing, and they were kind of playing around with each other, and they were there, and I knew instantly that they were a pair and they were going to stay. And I just went, yes! Yes! They are here! And so I've been following them ever since. The female, she's pregnant, and she is a little bit more skittish than her mate. Her mate is pretty watchful, but he doesn't run away like she oftentimes does. However, this afternoon, for whatever reason, I don't know why, she just hung out,
Yeah.
and that's really really unusual for her to do.
I'm really good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
This was awesome. This was, I didn't totally know what to expect when I came out here, but I'm really, really grateful for the chance to see what you do every day. And then also just for what you're doing in general. This takes a tremendous amount of time to check multiple times per day, go through the camera trap footage, and then be such a good, powerful voice for these fascinating creatures that live in our own backyard. It's awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I if I can spread the word to anybody out there, I'll go do it, and it's my pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.